I did it. I have gotten my New Vegas to run without crashing every 5 minutes. And that means that I have to put myself through the most brutally difficult challenge I've ever attempted on this channel to welcome my newly functional New Vegas install into the world. So, in this video, we will be attempting to beat Fallout New Vegas as a cannibal. While I'm faithfully recreating Schmannibal Schmechter from my Fallout 4 Cannibal video, let me break down what exactly this challenge is. For starters, I'm only allowed to heal using the Cannibal perk, which could be the whole challenge, but why make things so easy? On top of that, I'm only allowed to damage enemies using a rolling pin, which, fun fact, is the worst melee weapon in all of New Vegas. And you'd think that that would be all for the challenge, but I don't want to be wasteful, so I'll only be killing enemies that I can cannibalize, and will be cannibalizing every single enemy that I kill. And that means that I can't kill things like robots or turrets or animals at all. That's a lot to juggle, but Schmannibal is ready to go, and for his special stats, I spec heavily into strength, agility, and intelligence for melee damage, sneak skill, and science skill respectively. I do definitely regret using luck as a dump stat, because it made crit hits a very rare occurrence in this run, and 10 agility was probably not necessary, but it's too late to change that now. I then selected melee weapons, science, and sneak as my tag skills, Wild Wasteland and Good Natured as my traits, then exited Doc Mitchell's home and entered the Mojave Wasteland to begin this challenge. The first thing we've got to do has got to be getting our grubby little mitts on a rolling pin. There should be one inside of Cliff Briscoe's bungalow over in Novak, so that is where I'm headed first. On the way over, I made sure to discover the Mojave outpost for later, and did the Cold Hearts side quest to get my first level up, because I'm gonna need to hit level 4 before I can take the Cannibal perk, so I want to be hitting that level 4 milestone as soon as possible. It took me a little while to find the rolling pin once I was inside of Cliff Briscoe's bungalow, which definitely wasn't a problem that I was expecting to have, but it sure is a problem I ended up having. It turns out that the rolling pin was just on top of the fridge, where everyone always keeps their rolling pins. It's a very normal spot to keep a rolling pin. So that humiliating little slip up I had aside, we are ready to move on. Well, when I say move on, I mean stay in Novak and get good old Bald Boone to shoot Jeannie May, because she's mean, and I also really need more XP, because I may have the rolling pin, but I can't exactly use it until I'm able to eat my victims. That got me to level 3, and I started heading off to the strip straight away, because something needs to be done about this Benny guy. On the way, I made sure to lose most of my health to some raiders on the highway though, because who needs health anyway? Outside of that, I managed to get into Freeside nice and easily. But I kinda got caught up in a little side mission, I suppose. I think I must have had a sip of some stupid juice or something, and I decided that I need to hit level 4 before heading over to the Tops Casino to confront Benny. I don't honestly know why I thought this, but I definitely thought it, and while trying to get to level 4 here, I tried my hands at debt collecting for one of the Garrett twins, setting up the Followers of the Apocalypse with supplies from the Garrett twins, and looking for some very specific exotic escorts for the other Garrett twin. All of these endeavors failed. I messed all of them up, so I decided to just bite the bullet and go confront Benny anyway. But as soon as I walked in and saw him, I hit level 4 anyway, so I took the Cannibal perk. Then I pickpocketed some keys and started looking around Benny's room for the Platinum chip. Because for this run, I plan to go for the Legion ending, which is the most combat heavy ending in the game, because I want to get some good use out of this rolling pin. But to do that, I'm going to need the Platinum chip. I couldn't find the chip in Benny's room, but that's fine, because as soon as I walked out of the casino, the third hottest character in all of Fallout New Vegas came and let me know that Benny and the platinum chip are over with Kaiser at the fort, so that is where I'm headed next. At the fort, Glorious Kaiser told me that I have to go into a bunker belonging to Mr. Home using the platinum chip and destroy the bunker for him. Now you might be wondering how I'm planning to deal with all of the robots and turrets that are down in the bunker, considering I'm not allowed to fight them. And I have a solution. I've been using my skill points from leveling up this whole time to get my science skill up to 75 so that I can hack these two terminals and use them to shut down the robots and the turrets. That might make it seem like everything is going to go super well here. But that's not the case, because as it turns out, I can't destroy these generators with a rolling pin. And if I can't destroy these generators, I can't destroy the bunker, I can't join the Legion, and I can't conquer the Mojave for the glory of the Legion. And this exact same thing happened to me when I beat New Vegas with a flare gun. And that time, I ended up switching to a Mr. House run. So I don't want to just do that again. And instead, we'll be making a full 180 and fighting for the NCR instead of the Legion. First thing I've got to do for that is get the hell away from the fort and go have a chat with Ambassador Crocker back at the New Vegas Strip. He wants me to become an ally with some individuals born between the years of 1946 and 1964 over in Nellis and get them to agree to help the NCR out in the upcoming Battle of Hoover Dam 2 Electric Boogaloo. It was on my way to Nellis that I found a very special individual by the name of George. I made a bet with him that I can make it through the artillery field in front of Nellis without being blown into a million tiny little pieces. Now you may be wondering what makes him so special, and what makes him special is that after I made that little bet, I beat him to death with my rolling pin and feasted on his corpse, making him the first of many victims that will fall to my rolling pin and then disappear mysteriously into my stomach. Anyway, to get the boomers to help the NCR, I'm gonna need to help them out around Nellis, which usually is super easy, but not so much this time around. Today, I can't fight anything that isn't human, so I can't clear the ants out of the Nellis ant building. I was able to talk to a child and repair some solar panels for them though, and that gets me up to being liked. But that's not good enough, and I don't have enough medicine skill to help their doctor or enough speech skill to help Jack go on a date. So there's really only one thing I can do here. I've got to go to the other side of the map and kill some powder gangers for no reason, eat them, and then wander around the hidden valley aimlessly for 10 minutes. I feel like I kind of lost my way a little though, so it's time that I refocus on our main goal and go kill Caleb McCafferty to finish the debt collector side quest for the Garretts. Okay, back onto the boomers for real this time. To get the rest of the affinity I need, I just stole all of their scrap metal and donated it back to them, which I'm surprised that worked, but I'm very happy that it did, because it made things a whole lot easier. There's one more thing I need to do for the boomers before I can continue though. I've got to go get Loyal's girlfriend out from the bottom of the bog. So he set me up with some ballasts to help lift her up. I got a rebreather from Jack and headed over to Lake Mead to raise the old girl up. Attaching the ballasts was no problem at all, but getting to shore to detonate them was a little harder because there are some bog creatures hot on my tail. And they did get the better of me. But then I tried again, and trying again, it worked. But it did also kind of take me running across the entire length of the lake to lose those little f***ers so that I could fast travel out of there. But once I was out of there, I went back to talk to Mother Pearl, and she has agreed to help the NCR. Which means it's time to head back to the strip and talk to Ambassador Crocker about my next task. He wants me to stop some acts of violence being committed by some overly aggressive Elvis Presley cosplayers against the NCR citizens. So I went and talked to the king himself about it, and he wants me to go around and do a bunch of work for him before he steps in to end the violence. but I really don't feel like doing any of that right now. So instead, I feasted upon the flesh of my fellow man at the gate of the strip, and then went and told Crocker that the king is refusing to stop the violence. And he told me that I can go talk to Colonel Moore at Hoover Dam or Colonel Shue at Camp McCarran and get them to sort this out. And Camp McCarran is a shorter walk, so I'm going to be talking to Colonel Shue. Lucky for the cosplayers, he was the friendlier of the two options, and instead of annihilating all of the kings, we all teamed up to kill the absolute shit out of Pacer, who I then ate, which the king didn't exactly approve of.
Now that just wasn't called for.
But I don't really care what he thinks, so I went ahead and ate 3 more of his friends, then reported back to Ambassador Crocker. He told me to go report to Colonel Moore at Hoover Dam, so I ended up having to walk there anyway, and she wants me to get the Great Khans out of the picture. Now I could try to go for a diplomatic angle here, and get them to leave peacefully, but we haven't had enough violence in this run yet. So, it is now time to slaughter the entirety of the most formidable raider tribe in the entire Mojave Wasteland with just a rolling pin. On the way to the Khan's home in Red Rock Canyon, I decided to get some practice in by fighting some fiends in the area. They put up a pretty good fight, and I barely survived the encounter. And when I ran into some more of them, I didn't survive the encounter. So I think that maybe I should go do some prep work before taking on the Khans, just to be safe. First off, I went to the Mojave outpost to get my rolling pin repaired, which only costs 12 caps, and that's absolutely fantastic, because I'm going to need to be repairing it a lot throughout this playthrough. I also went ahead and purchased some doctor's bags, because they don't regen my health, but they do repair my crippled limbs, so they're very, very useful to me. And with those little tasks dealt with, I can head over to the canyon and start murdering people. I started with Carl for 2 reasons. One, the other Khans don't really care if I kill him because he's part of the Legion, and 2, he's kind of a piece of shit. I just hate the guy personally. I hate absolutely everything about him. The world may or may not be a better place without him in it, but my world would definitely be better without him. Next, I tried to just take out the rest of the Khans in the Longhouse at once. But that didn't go so well, so I tried again, and it still didn't go so well. Then I tried taking out Papa Khan while he's sleeping, but his health bar is a little bit too wide, and he's a little bit too noisy. So that doesn't work either, because I just end up fighting them all at once anyway. I kept trying to clear it out for a little while, but the Longhouse just isn't going very well at all. So I headed outside to pick off some smaller groups of Khans around the camp, which should hopefully get us something huge that should be a big help with taking out the Longhouse. To start with, I dealt with Jack and Diane, because there's only 2 of them, and it's also kind of weird how they're siblings, and they sleep right next to each other, even though they have a bunch of different trailers available to sleep in. Next, I took out a couple of Khans that were wandering around on their own, because that's a pretty easy thing to do. And after that, I started on my first bigger group of Khans. There are 4 of them, and my health bar got so close to being empty, but I managed to get all of them anyway, and while I was eating them, that huge thing I mentioned earlier happened. I unlocked the Dine and Dash perk for eating my 25th corpse. Now what the Dine and Dash perk does is that instead of just eating bodies to get my health back, I also have the option to take their flesh off and put it in my pocket safe and sound to save it for later. And that means I'm going to be able to heal during combat, which is an absolute game changer for this run. But I mean, I only managed to scavenge 3 pieces of human remains from those Khans, and I'm going to need some more of it for it to actually make a difference in taking out the Longhouse full of Khans. So I went all the way back to Good Springs and started killing every single person I saw there. Because it's the first town in the game, so they were all really easy to kill. At least in terms of how hard the combat was, they were easy to kill. Bludgeoning Easy Pete and Doc Mitchell to death was very hard to do on an emotional level. Unlike ripping their flesh off and putting it still bleeding into my pockets. That I didn't feel bad about at all. And after clearing out the town, I managed to get to a grand total of 4 pieces of human remains. Because I kind of had to eat most of the bodies in Good Springs to get my health back up after dealing with those 4 Khans earlier. So didn't quite go as well as it could have. To make up for the failings of Goodsprings, I harvested more flesh from some powder gangers on the side of the road and also some escaped convicts hanging out in Prim, then headed back to Red Rock Canyon to have another try at taking out that longhouse. And through the powers of my pockets being full of human remains to snack on, and also the fact that two of the Khans got stuck in Papa Khan's bedroom for most of the fight and couldn't attack me, I managed to clear the whole longhouse out, only dying several times. And now I just need to run around the canyon taking care of some stragglers to finish wiping out the Khans, then head back to Hoover Dam and report to Colonel Moore. The NCR is a bloated organization, spread too thin, too large for its own good, and dying a long and painful death as it struggles with the impossibility of maintaining safety and supply lines throughout its huge territory that it doesn't have the manpower to maintain or protect. So the Colonel has another task for me, and this time I need to figure out what kind of plot and or scheme that the Emerters are plotting and or scheming and put an end to it. So I headed straight over to the Gomorrah Casino and started investigating. The receptionist told me that Kachino is who I need to talk to, so I stole his diary and threatened to tell everyone that he has a crush on Joanna, and that was exactly the type of leverage that I needed. And he caved immediately and told me I need to go ask Troik about some gun shipments that the Emerters have been receiving. Troik told me that I need to get him out of his contract with the Emerters, so I talked to Big Sal and convinced him to let Troik go. Troik appreciates this and gave me some thermite to blow up all of the Emerters' weapons, which I went ahead and did straight away. After that, I checked back in with Kachino, and he went upstairs with me to kill the Emerters' bosses. He took care of all the shooting, and I took care of all the eating. So we made a pretty amazing team, as it turns out. And with that done, so was the Emerters' plots and or schemes that I had to stop, so I can head back to Colonel Moore and receive my next task. It's time to kill Mr. House, and I'm very curious about two different things. The first thing, can I eat him? He's like kind of human, but also kind of not at this point. And number two, if I can eat him, what the hell is he gonna taste like? So I used a combination of my running past his robot skills and my hacking skills to get through his security and whacked him with my rolling pin. And I can eat him. The flavor though, it was questionable. He kind of tasted like cigarette flavored pork, but like menthol cigarettes. It was not very pleasant at all. So I'll be giving him a 6 out of 10 and will be returning to eat here in the near future. When I returned to Colonel Moore though, she had some bad news to share. It is now time for me to take out the Brotherhood of Steel, which may seem like it's not a huge deal because I can just sneak around grabbing keycards and then activate the bunker's self-destruct. And ordinarily, that would be the case. But I have to eat everyone I kill. And if I'm blowing up the bunker with everyone still inside it, I can't really eat any of them. So I am going to be killing every single member of the Brotherhood of Steel in this bunker with a rolling pin. And I mean, when I said at the start of the video that this is the most brutally difficult challenge that I've ever done, this is why. Dealing with the Brotherhood here took up over half the length of the playthrough, and it's probably going to take up nearly half of this video as well. But there's no use to wait around, so it's time to buckle in and get started. I did do the whole going to the bunker and killing the NCR Ranger with the straight up silly looking sideburns for the Brotherhood, like I usually would, but with a bit more cannibalism this time around. And I did that so that I'm able to walk around the bunker without being attacked before our combat begins. But with that done, it is time to strike. First thing I do is hack this terminal to see if I can turn off the turrets on the first level of the bunker, because I really don't want to have to be dealing with them shooting at me when I can't even fight back against them because of their whole being an edible thing. Unfortunately, the only option for the turrets on the terminal is to get them to target Brotherhood personnel instead of me. And I can't do that because turrets aren't a rolling pin. so they're not allowed to help me kill the Brotherhood. After that waste of time though, I got my first Brotherhood kill against Paladin Ramos. It was pretty tough. It takes a lot of hits to kill someone wearing power armor with a rolling pin, regardless of how much depth the armor adds to the flavor of the individual wearing it. And next, I fight 2 paladins, and it was a lot harder than fighting one of them. I did not win this on my first attempt, but they eventually both went down after a long fight, thanks in no small part to the Super Slam perk that I took a little bit earlier, knocking them down for me so they can't attack. And with them taken care of, the entrance is clear, and I can head down to the first of 2 full floors of Brotherhood members. And this first floor, it's not going to be easy to get through at all. I died pretty much immediately when I went down there, and then I died again, and again, and again, and again. Honestly, I think some more prep work may be required here. So this time, after I died, I just left the bunker and started a mission to collect a massive pile of human remains. Because being able to heal while I'm fighting, instead of only being able to heal between fights, when I have the peace and quiet required to settle down to a nice meal, is going to be a really big help. My first victims were all of the powder gangers at the NCR Correctional Facility, because that's a pretty low level area, and I need to be farming this meat in places with low level or civilian NPCs, because otherwise I'm just going to be using all of their flesh to heal from fighting them, and I won't have any left over for fighting the Brotherhood. The powder gangers may have been the first, but they were far from the last. I went ahead and cleared out the convicts in the Bison Steve Hotel next, then headed back to the Brotherhood bunker to give it another try. Died 6 times, and went back out there to continue my meat collection marathon that would make Graham from Fallout 76 proud. This time, I collected meat from the people of North Vegas Square and the North Vegas sewers, some King's Gang members outside one of the gates to Freeside, and some vagrants and thugs inside of Freeside. I also went ahead and repaired my weapons and armor before heading back to the bunker to try clearing out that first level. My first target down here is gonna be Elder McNamara, because he isn't wearing power armor, so I think I should be able to take him out pretty easily. And I found a fantastic strategy to get that done. I lure him up these stairs away from the turrets and his friends, then after he's dead and some paladins and also a knight come up the stairs as well, I try to fight them and just end up dying, because that's a lot to handle. I did quick save after killing the Elder though, so I tried dealing with those paladins and knight a lot of times. Like this was a very long process, involving a lot of walking in and out of doors and save loading and healing and using chems, but I did eventually manage to get rid of all of the enemies that followed us up the stairs. And luckily enough, when I went back down to level 1, while I did die a few times, I managed to make a huge dent in the amount of people down there. I went on a bit of a killing spree, just wriggling from side to side to avoid getting shot, and miraculously managing to wipe out nearly the entire floor, which is definitely aided by the fact that all the people in power armor were just not showing up to ruin it. I think I managed to wipe out all but one named NPC on the floor, and also anyone else not wearing power armor. But at a certain point, I had paladins to deal with, all juiced up in power armor, with no tasty man jerky left in my inventory, and next to no health. So I decided to leave the bunker to get my equipment repaired and stock back up on human remains. Because I ate a lot of that stuff during these Brotherhood fights, I'm not really mentioning it at all when I'm using it, but trust me, I'm using it pretty much constantly. This time I collected my several pounds of flesh from boxcars in Nipton, the Scorpion Gang at the Monte Carlo Suites, some Freeside thugs, most of the population of Westside, the entire population of the Thorn, and some innocent civilians hanging out in the New Vegas sewer systems. Something unfortunate was revealed to me when I returned to the bunker though. It turns out that I took too long on that little meat foraging spree, and all of the unnamed NPCs in the bunker that I killed have respawned. So that's just absolutely brilliant. But instead of trying to take the entire bunker on with my current meat stash though, I'm gonna go out and get even more, because I don't want to run out again and then have all of the enemies respawn while I'm getting more. And for this final, and by far the longest, leg of our meat collection marathon, I harvested from Crucified Powder Gangers in Nipton, the McBride family in Novak, Cam addicts at the El Rey Motel, Fiends in the South Vegas ruins, Great Khans in Boulder City, the entire population of North Vegas, an NCR sharecropper, crucified criminals at Cottonwood Cove, Fiends in Vault 3, Sarah in Vault 21, and finally, the entire population of North Vegas again. And with all of that done, it is time to eliminate the Brotherhood of Steel once and for all. This time around, I didn't even actually clear the first floor out first. Instead, I ran past everyone on the first floor and went down to the second floor to deal with that first. And the situation down there is a bit different than it was upstairs. Down here, for the most part, the Brotherhood members stay in their rooms and don't really roam around outside of their rooms. And one of these rooms is just scribes. So that's basically a free meal. And everybody loves a free meal, so everybody should love these scribes. Drop a like on this video if you love the scribes. The next room I checked, it has a lot of people. Too many people actually, which I made sure to check quite a few times by getting turned into a fine red mist by them quite a few times. So this time I tried going in the other direction. And there are 2 paladins here, which isn't easy to deal with, but I've handled 2 paladins before, so it is pretty manageable. Next up is Head Paladin Harden, and he may be Head Paladin, but there's only one of him, so I managed to get rid of him without too much stress. Then Apprentice Watkins wandered over, and she really shouldn't have done that. It was just not a very good decision for her to make at all, and she definitely suffered the consequences of this poor decision. However, before I continue, I need to leave the bunker to repair my rolling pin, because at this point, it is doing very little damage, and I have a lot of bunker left to clear. Unfortunately though, getting it out was a bit of an issue due to the whole entire first floor still being fully populated by Brotherhood members thing. It took me a long time and a lot of deaths to get out of here, but I eventually made it, repaired my rolling pin, ate 1 fiend to top up on my health, and went back to the bunker. There's an even bigger problem now though. I can't get into the bunker. I just die as soon as I enter. Like, I kept trying, but I'm just insta-dead whenever I try to go through the doors. So I had to load an earlier save. And unfortunately, the placement of that save means that all the progress I just made on the second floor has been completely undone. This time around, I'm going to clear the first floor first, because I don't want it to be so difficult to get out and repair my rolling pin this time around. And the first floor, it took me over half an hour to clear. Just a complete mess of paladins and knights. I even had to go repair my rolling pin in the middle of clearing the floor. That's how long it took. But I did eventually get through them all, and headed down to deal with the second level. And with it, finished dealing with this whole godforsaken faction. I got rid of the scribes first, because we love the scribes, and prolonging their suffering would just be wrong. Then I managed to draw a few people out of the room with way too many people in it, and picked them off first. Then I went in and killed everyone left in the room, which still took quite a few tries, but it was definitely a hell of a lot easier than taking them all out at once would have been. Next is the paladins. And I mean, dealing with these 2 paladins is still something I've done before, so it was no trouble at all. I mean, Head Paladin Harden ended up coming over as well, but he can't even get off the floor, so that wasn't really much of a challenge. And I mean, he's the last one. We've done it. I killed the Brotherhood. They're gone, all with just the rolling pin. That took way too much of my life, but now I've just got to go around and eat all of the corpses that I didn't have time to eat while I was fighting, and leave this fucking bunker forever to report back to Colonel Moore. She is reasonably happy with how I dealt with the Brotherhood, and has one more thing for me to do before the Battle of Hoover Dam. I just have to protect the president of the NCR from being assassinated, which was hard. An absolutely huge part of me just wanted to wait and let the president get assassinated, because I want to know, what does a president taste like? This is a question that plagues my mind. The possibilities are endless, and every one of those possibilities I find endlessly intriguing. But I'm strong. I can do it. I can resist the urge to eat the president. So I stopped it. I stopped the assassination of the president, but at what cost? Not only do I have to sit through his entire speech, but I will also never know what a president tastes like. And now it is time to take this fight to the Legion in the Battle of Hoover Dam. And I've made a decision that even though I have to eat everyone I kill, I'm not responsible for cleaning up everyone my allies in the NCR kill. They're their own people. If they want to eat their kills, that's their responsibility, not mine. And because of this, I decided to just run through the whole section on the inside of the dam. Because, I mean, are you serious? That would be absolutely hellish to clear out in this challenge. There's so many enemies. Like, with a rolling pin, and I just got done with the Brotherhood, but I didn't kill them, so it's fine. Once I got outside though, I made a much bigger effort to eat more people, and also kill some people. Definitely killed some people as well, even if I only did it so that there would be more people to eat. And when I finished crossing the dam, I arrived in Legate Lanius's camp to finish this fight. Some of you may be wondering how I plan on dealing with the Legate, and I just so happen to have a barter skill of 100 that I've been building up over this playthrough. And after dealing with the Brotherhood for several hours, I don't want to spend several more hours on Lanius when I don't have to. So I scared him off using my barter skill, went back to the entrance of his camp, spoke to General Lee Oliver, was congratulated for my contribution to the NCR's victory, and finished the game. And that is how I beat Fallout New Vegas as a cannibal. Thank you so much for watching, and an extra special thanks to Insect Salad for being a member on this channel. If you want to get a shout out just like that, and also watch my videos early, hit the join button down below. And that was definitely not an easy challenge, so I hope you really enjoyed watching it. And if you did, make sure to leave a like, and if you want to see what I do next, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.